Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast on Citizen TV. We continue our news review with MP Isaac Mwaura, policy analyst Vincent Kimosop, and head of the NASA Secretariat Norman Magaya this morning. Now, I want to look at the nominations, but before that, there's a very interesting story, and I think it's on page 5 of the Standard. Fall of sacred tree sparks fears of bad omen in central Kenya. Now, I don't know how big this is. A sacred tree, thought to be about 300 years old, came crashing down in Nyeri yesterday, prompting talk of a bad omen among residents. Now, everyone is speculating, because even politically, the Mugumo tree, and whether it is upright or it's been pruned or has fallen, has repercussions. I don't know what... Our
constitution, I think under Article... the chapter on culture, and I think one of the things that we should, as part of celebrating the issue of culture, the person who is best placed in this table is Mwaura to explain to us, because if we celebrate our diversity as a people, Mwaura, what does this mean?
And you know what, that story just to show that it's that big, it's also on the Daily Nation on page 12. Residents of Kiamigwi in Nyeri County view a fig tree, Mugumo, that fell yesterday. The locals claim that the tree was sacred because elders used to pray for rains from there. The Kikuyu elders will be visiting the scene today.
I think let me say that the Mugumo tree being sacred is not just a phenomenon within the Kikuyu culture. I was very interestingly surprised when I visited Rwanda under the presidential palace of Juvenal Habyarimana. You also find, they call it Mugumo. So you can clearly see we didn't come from a tree. We must have immigrated from somewhere, and so many other communities. The issue is, it depends on how you interpret. Obviously, the Kiama, as we call it, the elders will go and look at what it is. It could mean many things. It could also actually mean that NASA is going to be NASWAD.
Well, but there's a role that these things do play.
In 2013, when we had the elections, there is a Mugumo tree that fell, and at that time I remember the conversation was that the leadership is going to transit from the older generation to the younger, and all the people in Jubilee were they were celebrating and happy that truly this is a sign of good things. And I don't know if it was in this program we discussed, and he said, what are you waiting for? The Mugumo tree has already indicated where the direction was going. So I do not want to say a lot. It could also mean I think this is a biological function. It could be that the rains have begun, the soils have started to, we also need to appreciate the place of science.
But it should also be noted that it happened in Nyeri, where a county which is actually in transition.
You can say many things about the tree, but there's one thing you can't take away from it, the cultural value that any community attaches to a specific cultural symbol. So it largely depends on what cultural value that the Kikuyu community attaches to the Mugumo tree as a symbol. And so the significance or lack of it can only be interpreted within that purview of that cultural value. If it symbolizes leadership transition, then so be it. If it symbolizes drought, famine and everything to do with that, then it can only be interpreted within that purview. Because I think this one, I've been following these stories of Mugumo tree, and I think within this term of 4 years, I think this is almost the 4th or 5th.
They keep falling out here.
Another one is the other day.
Roman, are you trying to suggest that this is a good omen for God or NASA? Sure.
We are such no cultural value of the Mugumo tree. That's why I said it can only be interpreted from a cultural value.
But let me, there's also the question of the direction in which it fell. Because also if we are to scrutinize the issue of
someone should go there with a compass and
check which direction has it fallen, so that then it'd be good to give the entire context. But it tells you what I like about all this is the element that if we were ready to celebrate our diversity, I look at our preamble of our constitution that talks about our aspirations, celebrating our diversity and our commitment to live together. As in such stories getting to the headline tells you about if our culture is celebrated well, could actually contribute towards beautifying the forest that is the country Kenya.
But I can bet that if this was an election year, perhaps it would not have made it to two national.
If it wasn't an election year.
You know,
we must have a political...
even the reporters who report on this come from that particular region. They do understand what it means in an election year for Mugumo Tree.
I think, Fred, remember Mwai Kibaki, our third president, is on record as having said that to remove come from power is like cutting a Mugumo tree with a razor blade. And so therefore, Mugumo tree signifies power because it's a shrine where people used to pray, and of course we are told that immediately after praying then they would live there when there's rain. But I think also it just goes ahead to show how people do not just leave their culture because of modernity. And this is also typified by countries like England, where or the UK, where even after 300 years of colonization of Scotland, people are still regrouping and finding their nationalism as Scottish people. Now, what does that mean? Because sometimes we discuss about ethnicity a lot in this country. And I think there must be some place somewhere where we can talk about positive ethnicity, where we can look at the diversity of Kenyans, because, you know, the tribe has become the master status, where you are actually judged by your tribe rather than your personal attributes of leadership and what have you. And coming from a cosmopolitan area like Ruiru constituency where I'm running for office, it would be important for us to have people who embrace everybody and have equal opportunity. Yesterday I met a very interesting lady called Bosire Wairimo Otieno. You know, those are the kind of names we want to hear going forward. Individuals who, you know, are from diverse communities, so that we can unite our country, but at the same time, without demonizing the strength that we get from our various, you know.
But the final jury on this tree falling, of course, is expected to come from a team of elders who are expected to inspect the tree today and conduct rituals to ward off evil spirits and also seek a clear message from the ancestors on what the falling portends.
The one of going to the level of ancestral worship is what we should really be concerned about, because I think also there are limitations to which some things should not be allowed. Because what happens if, for example, they come with an interpretation from the ancestors that might not be supportive to a diverse way of...
Yet the Constitution guarantees freedom of worship.
And that's what I'm saying. We have to balance also some of this...
Is that vestigial? I want us to move on. I want us to move on to other headlines now. Of course, the Mugumo tree has fallen in Nyeri. It fell yesterday. Various people, different people are talking about it differently. Of course, some speculating on whether or not it means something politically. But it should be noted, as I mentioned earlier, that it's happening in Nyeri County, which is already in transition following the death of Governor Derito Gachagua. And, of course, probably it could do with his succession. Let's now take a look at the headlines to do with nominations. And of course, even though this one about NASA has to do with the presidential selection of a presidential candidate, and the other one for Jubilee has to do with the party primaries, they're all related. And the big news, let's start off with NASA, of course. And according to the headline on the Standard, the opposition has dropped one of its three key options on man to unleash against Uhuru. Now basically, and from our understanding, it was either they would use party primaries where, like the US style, where a lot of people come and vote for their preferred candidate. The other one was through consensus that the candidates themselves do agree, or through an electoral college. Now according to the story on the Standard, the option of using party primaries has been dropped. So it's down to either consensus between the candidates or an electoral college to actually pick the presidential flag bearer for the NASA coalition. Now, is this true, now that we do have the head of the NASA secretariat with us?
I just want to expose the lies in these headlines. There is this one, there is another one in The Nation. This one says there was a meeting yesterday. The one in The Nation says there will be a meeting today. What it simply means is that there was no meeting. There was no meeting. Two, I've been seeing the Standard with options. I've been involved in this process as a secretariat. We provide secretarial services to both the coordinating committee and the technical team. And some of the things, I simply read them in the media, and I marvel at just how innovative our journalists have become. Because many of them have not featured anywhere. It will be foolish on us to think that we could go primaries at this stage. Everyone knows that primaries will be a landmine that should be avoided. What I know is that we have our own timing.
So it is true that probably you've done away with that option in terms. It
was never an option. It was never an option. Okay. Has never been an option. We've only pursued one option of a consensus building by the principals, spearheaded by the coordinating committee and the technical and strategy team.
What about the option of using an electoral college?
That too, I've just seen it on the newspaper. It has not featured anywhere.
It is not among your options.
It is not among the options at all. I've said the only option on the table, and which is progressing very well. We are actually just a few days away from making this announcement, is the consensus building among the principals. That remains the only option that the coalition has had.
It sounds easy, but achieving consensus between those four gentlemen, do you think it can happen?
You see, I've said time and again on KTN, on NTV, and I want to repeat it here, that arriving on the coalition's presidential candidate is not a hackling task for the coalition per se. There are values and principles that the coalition principals have subjected themselves to, and there have been talks about how the whole process is to be conducted, about what needs to be done, about what each pairing brings on board. And I can tell you that most of these things have been thrashed out. There just remain a few grey areas that the committee is handling, and it's not a difficult task. It's not causing headache, as it will be made to appear.
Well, from NASA, you say it's not causing headaches, but from at least from public perception, we see it differently. And the cartoon on the Daily Nation, today's cartoon on the Daily Nation, that's page 14 of the Daily Nation, if my director could help me with that, seems to show something else, and that's a cartoon there, that all the those four individuals there representing the four gentlemen at the forefront of the NASA formation, and of course we see the truck there is branded ODM, and this is a tow truck. It's actually carrying another vehicle called NASA, so NASA is riding on ODM. Of course the driver there is rather obvious, but the other gentlemen inside the vehicle that's being carried on the ODM truck are all saying they're in control. This just represents
Is it ready? You have to take that literally. First look at the composition of the structures of the coalition that is involved in this process. That if you go to the National Coordinating Committee, each of the four affiliate parties has 3 members. If you go to the strategy team, the representation is the same, 2 members. If you go to the secretariat, the representation is the same, 1 member from each party. So it will be a different case if in each of those organs ODM was given a preferential treatment, that it has more members than the other parties, which is not the case. So that cartoon is nothing but malice and an extension of malicious propaganda that continues being propagated by the media.
Let's just
and let me clarify, because this, we're not saying it's correct, but it's definitely someone's interpretation of his understanding of what could be
happening. He's very right, Fred, because
it's a munene.
Yeah, he's very right, because the issue is, you look at, I want to address 2 issues, because of course I'm a former member of the CORD coalition. Now that it is dying, we have NASA. Look at Raila Odinga and how he has negotiated, because you can call him the patriarch of coalition building and MOUs, political MOUs, because you look at the NAC, and in his book Flame of Freedom, he says that he knew that even if leaders were to be left for 100 years, they would never have agreed who would be, and that's why he said Kibaki Tosha. That is 2002. In the 2007 elections, we went to Kasarani, and there was a semblance of an election where about 4,500 delegates or thereabout participated in an election. He was the first, followed by Musalia, followed by William Ruto. And then Najib stepped down for him, and then of course the others also. Now, based on that, he was able to cobble up, and he announced that he created the pedagogue terminology, and also announced that Mudavadi was his running mate. And of course, that started, that was the agreement, it was the beginning of the agreement between him and William Ruto. Come 2013, we went to Uhuru Park. And Uhuru Park is when they announced a summit of, that time it was 4 members. And they said they agreed by consensus. Now, this Code Pact is also the bone of contention, because we have read it in the papers, that Francis Njenze, who represents the White Party, which is actually former ODMK, you remember also the acrimony there, people must remember history, and he says we must first honor the pact. And when they went to Bombas, when the former Prime Minister was being given all those hats there, some people are saying CORD, others were saying NASA. So I think my good friend Norman should clarify whether it is CORD or NASA, so that it's very clear. Because if it's CORD, it therefore means that then you have to go with the pact. Even if you didn't form government, the idea was for Raila to run for office. He did not succeed in getting the seat, and so therefore Kalonzo feels entitled. Further to this, the truth must be told. The engine of CORD was ODM. Even if you look at the current constitution of Parliament, at the beginning of the 11th Parliament, because of course allegiances have shifted, ODM is the biggest political party by numbers. And so when you see this cartoonist showing this orange truck carrying Akina Wetangula and whatever, it's true, because Wetangula is barely controlling Bungoma. He had to be held by Raila Odinga to retain the senatorial seat. We are hearing even of talks of him running for governor there. Now, if you look at Lower Eastern, clearly the vote has shifted. Remember, in 2007, Kalonzo Musyoka got 70%, while Moi Kibaki got 30% of the vote. And so we cannot clearly say whether Kalonzo has the backing of the whole of Ukambani. Now that Ngilu told us that they have 2 million votes, so they're in the big league. Yet, Kalonzo had to go and consolidate his support base by having Ngilu and Wavinya Ndeti to speak as one camp. They say Kalonzo, Kalonzo, Kalonzo. And so, when Raila Odinga has been away, we would have expected Kalonzo to also mobilize, to be seen to be taking charge. I even want to challenge Norman here. The code of NASA Secretariat, where is it? It's at Capitol Hill. You know, no, just listen. So, the truth of the matter is, it's not even inventing, it is the truth. He who pays the piper calls the tune. This cartoon is simply speaking the truth.
No, there is a line that Maura cannot get away with. This needs a rebuttal of us.
Let me finish. When you look at the code secretariat, or those are having 2 or 3 members does not mean that you are equal. Even when we go to negotiate as countries at the UN, US will also have 1 delegate, but we know it's a superpower. We know who is behind all this. We know who is actually the popular candidate amongst the people. It is very evident, and so therefore we must not be blinded by the fact that Kalonzo and Raila at the same level.
Needs a rebuttal before we lose the minute.
Bwana Kimosop, let's give Bwana Magaya a brief moment to
Mauro must appreciate that NASA is now both a legal and political reality. That an agreement has been signed and deposited with the Yusuf political party, and this agreement is a public document. It's not a secret document, and that agreement clearly provides a transition from the CORD coalition to the NASA coalition, and provides a mechanism through which the 3 parties interact with each other. And that agreement espouses the principle of equality at all levels. It does not elevate one party to a higher pedestal as opposed to the others. 2, Mauro is talking about the question of 2013 MOUs. He has been a member of the CORD coalition, and I can dare him to say whether he has ever set his eyes on an MOU of 2013. Yeah, I can dare him if he has ever set his eyes on any such MOU. And so what we have now is a completely new outfit with the new realities. And it is not true for him to assert that merely because the NASA Secretariat is based at Capitol Hill. Actually, Capitol Hill was the headquarters of the CORD coalition and not the office of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. It was the CORD Secretariat that was housing the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and not the other way around. That must be made. That must be made clear. And secondly, at the moment, the NASA Secretariat He's not based at Capitol Hill. These are new realities that have happened since Mr. Mwaura left while he was away.
Where is the new headquarters? Now that you said it's not based at Capitol Hill.
I think media covered extensively the signing of the NASA coalition agreement. The agreement was signed at the coalition headquarters in Lavington. Okay. So that did.
Now, when a lot has been said here, but I want us to go back to the headline, and it's about how NASA is going to pick a candidate. Bwana Magaya says that, of course, they've ruled out using primaries, they've ruled out using an electoral college, although it's listed.
We have never had it an option.
That means it's not an option. So the only option they have, according to Bwana Magaya, is consensus.
I really want to make a small contribution into this heated conversation. The media is a reflection of our society. That is why it's called the fourth estate. And if people are not economical with the truth, at times also the media will depict to some extent. At times they get it wrong, and that's why there is opportunity for people for apologies, redress, and even people going to court. Now, just connect the following realities. In 2013, the presidential candidate for CORD was Raila Odinga. Therefore, it means that he was first among the equal. Now, if you look at from 2013 until now, consistently, every time that CORD had a press conference, the first person who used to speak was Wetangula, followed by Kalonzo Musyoka, and then finally by Raila Odinga. So consistently they have been able to depict an image that even though they are equals, yes, which is a principle, but there is a first among these equals, who is Raila Odinga. So for me, this cartoon really mirrors the realities on the ground. Look at this. According to our constitution, the leader of the opposition legally is Francis Nyenze, because he is the leader of the minority in parliament. But when you go to a political rally, the reality of it, even the media refers to Raila on the right, the former prime minister, as the leader of opposition. So, even Magayu here has actually even told us that he's transited from being the head of the CORD Secretariat to becoming the head of the NASA Secretariat. So you do not need to be a skyrocket scientist to connect the dots that truly ODM has, even though it's equal within the NASA formation, it is the #1 among these equals.
So he's assuming that I'm a member of ODM.
How does that play out in the
for us, we have to be analysts.
You spend quite a lot of time, but I think I want to hear what Bwana Kimoso has to say.
Then finally, on the consensus issue, the reason why it takes time is because remember, we have to balance all these interests. When you have one political party, the interests are less, but you have 4 political parties that signed the NASA agreement. You have to keep this framework. So who takes, for example, the Nairobi governor? If somebody, I can tell you, if the one who will become the NASA presidential candidate will therefore not produce the Nairobi governor's seat. So all those balancing all those interests between the PSs. No, it's because we see the developments.
Because when you talk about consensus, that is what they're
and that's why it has to take time. And in fact, I would, from an analysis perspective, I would understand why NASA is taking time, because to take care of all those interests until everybody is happy, then it's an issue of
because
time.
It means that even the person who's viewed as the most popular has to actually
see
that position and say that if you don't pick me, it's fine. Yes, I know I'm the most popular.
Because you also cannot. You see, you can be popular and get 30%. You can be popular and get 45%. The Constitution requires that for you to be declared president of this country, it is 50+1. So you are in a context whereby you need everybody. That's why even Jubilee, for example, have to take care of Sonko, because Sonko has people. You might not be comfortable with him as a candidate, but the reality that he speaks, there is a critical constituency in the city that listens to him. So that balance is why politicians retreat. Even the president, you remember, together with the prime minister, they would go to Kilaguni. When even was announcing the cabinet of the coalition government, you remember at some point it had to be President Kibaki together with Raila in Sagana, with reduced influence of the other interests.
So what we expect from NASA is probably another Tosha statement, not necessarily primaries or a vote anywhere. We won't be seeking. It will not be a popularity contest. It is consensus.
Yes, that will be the best scenario for them.
Now, Maura, you wanted to respond to
Yes, I think there are two things I want to say. Is that the truth of the matter is that even the Lavington venue is the former LDP headquarters. And I know I know that place because it's the same place we used to work on when we were making the ODM manifesto of 2007. And so therefore, really, let us just give credit where it is due, Norman, that the operations of CORD or NASA are highly driven by ODM. And ODM is the elder brother. If you look at officialdom, the issue of who is the leader of the opposition, you can be the leader of the opposition in parliament, like Francis Nyanza is, but the de facto leader of the official opposition is actually Jacob Midiwo. That is the person even the media goes to get the official statement of CORD. And when you look at
in as far as parliament is concerned.
In parliament. And is the deputy minority leader. But he's actually the minority leader. But it's not by design, it's by default, because obviously he commands more, he's more articulate. If you look at also the national politics, the de facto leader of the opposition is Raila Odinga. And it's not also by default, he's worked hard to get it. And I would want the Kenyans to listen carefully to my good brother Norman Magaya of the dishonesty that is being expressed on this national television, that there never existed an MOU that I have never seen. I remember very well when we launched it at the KICC, where even Gilu had come to join us. It was called a marriage, and this was even deposited with the registrar of political parties. And so therefore to come around and say it did not exist, ostensibly to lock out the ambitions of one Kalonzo Musyoka, I would want to tell the people of Lower Eastern to listen and listen very carefully, because I can tell you for sure, with certainty, take it to the bank, that Kalonzo Musyoka doesn't have a chance of becoming the presidential candidate of Ghana.
The question was...
and cannot purport to be a spokesperson for His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. I think there are realities and there are outright lies. One reality is that the CORD coalition agreement was deposited with the registry of political parties. It's a public document. To that, Maura here can go to the registry of political parties and get it. And let him demonstrate to us the things he's saying where they are captured. In that agreement, he says he was at KICC where it was signed, and thereafter it was reported at the registry of political parties. Can he be able to put his hands on the things that he's saying in this agreement? It's a public document. So let us not sensationalize things purely because we want to drive a wedge between individuals. But I can say this, that the NASA principles, the stage at where they are now, they are purely and absolutely above propaganda to divide them. They are not foolish enough to know that if they divide each other, they will lose the election. And I can assure you that on the 8th of August 2017, they will go into that election as a single unit, as a united team.
On that note, we take another break. When we return, we discuss now the Jubilee Party nominations. This smart cards that actually was sold, and the Jubilee Party actually received at least 140 million shillings from the sale of those cards. Remember, each was selling at 20 shillings. Is now they're actually considering abandoning them. That after the break.